Hello, this is Craig Wesco recording for TCGplayer.com, and today we're going to be playing a Bloodbraid Elf Jund deck. This is a list that I actually got from Reed Duke, who wrote an article about it this week. And so, who better to go to than the master of Black Green X mid-range decks? Him and Willie Adel are probably the two. So anyway, I'm just playing his list straight. Basically, it's sort of a combination of the old Jund decks before Bloodbraid Elf got banned, and with a bunch of additions like Culligan's Command didn't exist back then, Liliana the Last Hope didn't exist back then, Fatal Push did not exist, and so we have a lot of sort of new tools. And even in the sideboard, we have cards like Collective Brutality. So a couple of changes sort of happen with the reintroduction of Bloodbraid Elf. One, the creature lands get better because if the opponent doesn't have a creature on board, you generally don't want to cast Bloodbraid Elf with a bunch of removal spells in your deck because you could just, Bloodbraid Elf into like a Fatal Push or a Terminate and it just doesn't do anything. You just end up with a 3/2, which isn't that good. So you'll want to activate a creature land and attack. So we have Treetop Village and Raging Ravine. And then just hold the Bloodbraid Elf until they have a creature on the board so that whatever you cascade into, it'll be good. If you cascade into Liliana, great, make them sack their creature. If you cascade into Abrupt Decay, Terminate, Fatal Push, kill their creature, Bolt, kill their creature, Culligan's Command, kill their creature. Culligan's Command is fine no matter what, as long as you have a creature in the graveyard you can get back. Because you can have the opponent discard, you can kill an artifact, whatever. Deal 2 damage to a creature or sometimes a player. That's not. It's kind of like a lightning bolt. Maelstrom Pulse. We need sort of Maelstrom Pulse and Abrupt Decay as answers to enchantments main deck and also artifacts. And the Culligan's commands can also answer artifacts. So we have 4 artifact removal spells in the main deck. And then the Bloodbraid Elves help us cascade it into them, so it feels like we have more. And then of course we have like Tarmogoyfs, and I have 3 of one picture, 1 of another picture because YOLO. Dark Confidant, he's sort of our main card advantage engine. Bloodbraid Elf is sort of supplemental to that plan. So we have a lot of a card advantage in this deck actually, between that and Culligan's Command. And then Liliana the Last Hope can also generate card advantage, especially if you're getting back a Bloodbraid Elf. Culligan's Command getting back Bloodbraid Elf is also pretty sweet. One of the biggest changes to Jund here with the addition of Bloodbraid Elf is the removal of Thoughtseize from the main deck and Collective Brutality. So we don't really want a lot of hand disruption because by the time we get to 4 mana to cast Bloodbraid Elf, we're going to be cascading into an opponent's hand is going to probably not have any cards in it in like half the matchups. So against Affinity on turn 4, they're not going to have any cards in hand. Same with a lot of other decks in the format. So you don't really want to cascade into Thoughtseize. Cascading into Inquisition is about as bad, but at least if they have like 1 card, you're not having to make a decision, do I want to pay 2 life to probably not even be able to hit it. At least you get to take their last card or at least see that it's a land and not lose any life in the process. And you need some form of hand disruption. Like that's kind of what the Jund decks are all about, is tearing apart the opponent's hand. And you can do it with the Inquisitions, Lilianas, and Culligan's commands. You just don't want an overabundance of it now with the Bloodbraideds. In the sideboard, we need Fulminator Mages, especially for the Scapeshift and Tron matchups. But also it's just pretty solid against mid-range decks when they have creature lands like Colonnades, stuff like that. So it should be good in a metagame filled with Bloodbraid Elf and Jace. Ancient Grudge is for Lantern and Affinity, and then anytime they have a deck they really want to kill a couple artifacts. Don't want to bring it in, I don't think, against the Ethervial decks, maybe 1 copy. So against like humans and Death and Taxes, stuff like that. Because you already have like Abrupt Decay, Culligan's Command, Maelstrom Pulse in the main. Granted, these can get taxed because they can also kill other stuff in the deck, You might want like one Ancient Grudge, but you don't want all three in that matchup. Nihil Spellbomb, a little bit of Graveyard Hate, Graph-Digger's Cage, Graveyard Hate plus Court of Calling and Collected Company Hate. Grim Lovemancer, sometimes you just need a recurring removal spell. It's kind of like a Punishing Fire. Liliana the Last Hope, similar. It can kill off other noble hierarchs and birds and stuff like that. Also pretty useful against Lingering Souls. Thoughtseize and Collective Brutality. Brutality is mostly for burn, but you can bring it in some matchups where you can, like an endless amount of discard is fine, like some of the control matchups, maybe against Blue-White Miracles. Thoughtseize is really good against combo decks, also against decks with like Cryptic Command and Jace the Mind Sculptor, stuff like that. And then Kitchen Finks is good against burn, good to mid-range matchups. It looks like he has a few kind of pretty versatile sideboard cards. Like Kitchen Finks can come in just about anywhere. Lovemancer can come in pretty much anywhere as well. Some of the matchups you're not going to want all these removal spells. It's like you have Fatal Push, Bolt, Terminate, Abrupt Decay, just a lot of creature removal. So against decks where they're very creature light, you're going to want to bring in some of these sideboard cards. So it looks like he has a few kind of flex spot type cards that are not super potent, like going to win you the game in certain matchups, like a Kitchen Finks, but it's useful enough that it can come in as, a last card over that extra removal spell in your main deck in matchups where you don't want all that removal. And when you have Bloodbraid Elf in the main deck, as Jadine Klumperens was saying in her recent Star City article, she was saying that with Bloodbraid Elf in your deck, you don't want to leave cards in your deck that you can cascade into that are very subpar. So in very creature-light matchups, you really want to take out as many removal spells as you can, so that you don't. So not only do you not draw them, but you also don't cascade into them. So that's why it's even more important to have some like generically useful cards like Kitchen Finks, because cascading into Kitchen Finks against a removal light deck is way better than cascading into like a Lightning Bolt or a Fatal Push. So yeah, this is basically what we're gonna play today. Um, it's kind of a little bit more aggressive kind of Jund because you have Bloodbraid Elf now, and that incentivizes you to be a little more aggressive. But it looks like it's a new and improved version with Bloodbraid Elf, and let's see if it can compete without Deathrite Shaman.